Awesome. And once we are live, all right, we are live and we're getting rolling here, Marty. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to start sharing this across some of the other platforms that we've got, and we can get rolling here. All right.
Looking forward.
All righty. Let's do this. Okie doke. Live. Let me get my key here. Cameras, videos, perfect. Good to go here. All righty, one more second here. Thank you so much for jumping on this with me, Marty. This is a real pleasure here to actually be able to chat with you.
Thank you for inviting me to do this. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. Let's take a look here.
Coffee in the morning.
I know, right?
Right?
Awesome.
You know what they say, even bad coffee is better than no coffee.
Absolutely. Okay, let's do this. Awesome. Let's get on here. We are live. I am going to share this here. Okie doke. Okay, so we've got this. 1 second. Add followers. Perfect. And then okie doke. Okay, had to do a little bit of clicking action here. So we are good to go though. All right. Rock and roll. Awesome. Cool. So thank you everyone for joining the live stream here. Marty, tell us about yourself. A quick introduction for those who don't know who you are. Let's start there. I don't know if anyone doesn't know who you are. You're kind of a legend, but yeah, just introduce yourself for everyone.
I'm a rumor in my own time, right? Well, after I invented the internet, I went on to invent AI. No, seriously. I got my start in this industry 40 years ago. And by fortunate circumstance, my actually very first job was as a senior director of strategic planning for one of the biggest ad agencies in the world on Madison Avenue. Think about the show Mad Men. The agency that Mad Men was built around was an agency that I was a senior executive at. And if you think about what you saw on the show Mad Men, it was 100 times more intense than that. The stories that I could tell would get me killed. I'd have to go into witness protection. But it's very interesting. It's a good place to start. So I spent a number of years on Madison Avenue at the big agencies moving around. Then I started my own agency. I thought, wow, what a great idea. Have an agency. Good experience? Not a great idea. It's a lot tougher than most people think it is. And where I wound up was because of the clients that I had at the big agencies. And because of my own agency, I got called in to be a consultant to some of the larger brands out there, names you know, Procter & Gamble, Kraft, etc. And consulting to these gigantic brands taught me something very interesting, that even the biggest brands in the world don't really understand what it takes to grow a business. All they're doing, for the most part, is spending a lot of money. So if I spend 100 times more money than you do in marketing and advertising, I'm going to get more awareness. And awareness to some degree translates to sales and so on. But there's a lesson in all of this. After I haven't finished. After I went, after I did the agency thing and I was consulting to all these giant brands, I saw an opportunity to create basically a consulting business where I could go in as a fractional strategic director or consult to brands that were launching new products or finding themselves in very competitive situations. And I've been doing that for the last several decades. I think, I don't want to sound too obnoxious here, that the experiences I learned and what I got to do on Madison Avenue and in my consulting and in teaching courses, I think I've developed an expertise in a topic that is very misunderstood, mistaught, mislabeled, misused, and in large measure, just even not done or done wrong. And so that's my mission right now, is to bring the gift of positioning and depositioning and competitive advantage to the world.
So, which is a great point. So depositioning versus positioning, let's start simple for everyone, right? What's the difference between the two of them?
Well, to get into that, we have to take it back one little step. Why are we in business in the first place? Why do we have products that we sell, or services that we offer, or whatever it is? Why do we do that, right? We do that obviously for a range of reasons, not the least of which is making money. And there are altruistic reasons involved as well. We want to do good for the world. We want to help people. But we have to understand that businesses, any business, I don't care what category, what market you're in, businesses cannot survive on retention alone, loyalty programs.
Yeah.
Math doesn't math. So many people leave loyalty programs and retention programs several months in that the attrition rate kills businesses if you can't have a constant new influx of new customers and new clients. And if the influx rate doesn't exceed the attrition rate, your business is going under. So brands that focus on retention programs to stimulate more sales from a customer they already have, while they're ignoring the realities of new acquisition, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
So what we look at is kind of a seesaw between positioning and depositioning. And let me define these the right way. There's a lot of nonsense going out there. Positioning is everything that you do as a brand or a company or a consultant or an agency, everything that you do to influence your targets to think positively about your brand, to feel good about your brand, and to understand that when they get to the point of making a decision about buying whatever it is your category sells, that they're going to think of you, they're going to come to you, they're going to buy from you. Positioning influences your targets to perceive and believe and act in a way that's favorable to your brand. Here's the problem. There are almost zero entirely new virgin entrants into any market. Everybody has something they use today for everything they need. You got a brand of toothpaste you like, you got a laptop you use, you got a cell phone that you love, Android, iPhone. Everything that you do, everything that every one of your targets needs, they've already got something. And that something, whatever it is they're using today, is at least in their mind good enough. Maybe they don't rave about it all day long. Maybe it's not the only thing they talk about, but it's good enough. It does the job. And inertia sets in. We as humans are risk averse, right? Going back to evolutionary days.
Right.
And it's safer. This is called the status quo bias. It's safer to stay where we are than to make a change. The perceived cost of giving up what I have scares us more than the perceived value excites us of what I might get if I switch. So all the targets that you want for your business, they already have something they're using. One of your competitors. And we call that being bound. So if your target is engaged with a competitor of yours, and almost everyone is, they're bound. And we'll get into this a little more in a moment. But when a target is bound to one of your competitors, no amount of positioning, no amount of acquisition messaging, no amount of great offers, product features, benefits, solving problems, resolving pain, none of that is going to get through to them. You're banging on a door without the key. The customers already have something and they have no reason or urgency to leave.
It's good
And you're
enough.
trying to say, come
right?
to me, look at how great my product is, right? It's cheaper, it's bigger, better, faster, cleaner, whiter, brighter.
Right.
They don't care. The unfortunate truth that brands have to get their hands around is the majority of people just don't care about you. They care about themselves. And what they have right now is good enough. So if you can't get into their head and change good enough to not good enough or not good at all or not acceptable, you're never going to acquire them. And that's the reason why acquisition costs are insanely high. It's the reason why conversion rates are miserable. It's the reason why ROAS is anemic. And it's the reason most businesses go out of business because they just can't acquire enough constant stream of new influx of customers and clients to survive. So here's where depositioning comes in. It sounds like it's the other side of the coin, right? Of positioning, depositioning. Depositioning has one singular objective. It's like positioning is everything you do to influence customers in favor of your brand.
Right.
Depositioning has one singular objective. That's to break the bond that your competitors have on their customers, which is preventing their customers from being free to be acquired by you. Break the bond. We call it unbinding. And if you can't unbind your targets, if they don't get unbound, your acquisition is going to fail. It just is.
And it's no matter how good the offer is. I know you and I have talked about this as well, but we were just before this call, we were talking about like, it doesn't matter the offer. And I think that's where a lot of marketers really kind of fail is they're like, oh, it's just got to be the offer. It's the perfect offer. And to your point, the offer doesn't matter if you're not even on their radar, if they're still bound to to your competitors
So the offer does matter, but not until
until
that target customer or client has decided it's okay for them to switch, right?
yes,
As I said, we're risk averse, right?
right,
Switching subconsciously always feels like a risk, right?
and it can be
Stay-
painful, right?
staying where you are is safety, right?
Right.
So the job of positioning is to bring them over to you, but you can't until they're ready to be brought over, right? You you can't reel in a fish that's on somebody else's hook. You have to unhook them. But here's where it gets interesting. All you can do is trigger a series of realizations in that customer's mind, in that target's mind, for them to make the decision that they need to change. You can't force it. You can make it happen through some very specific types of messages, but it's not about you. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But here's the point: positioning brings them to you, depositioning is intended to strategically dismantle the good enough story that the competitor has living inside their head about the customer they have and living inside the head of your target customer about the incumbent brand they're using. You got to break that.
Yeah. Are there any examples that you can give of brands that absolutely excel at this?
Yeah, sure. One of my very favorite recent examples, well, recent meaning a few years,
Sure.
of a brand that has absolutely crushed it in depositioning is Liquid Death.
Love Liquid Death.
There is probably no more competitive, commoditized market in the galaxy than water. Bottled water, how many brands of bottled water can you name? 20, 30, 50?
Right.
It's so commoditized that anybody thinking about getting into the water business basically needs to have their head examined. So here comes Liquid Death. And do they talk about the fact that they have a higher pH, or do they talk about the fact that they're from a natural virgin mountain spring blessed by the gods and goddesses? No. They're not even talking about themselves. What they did was they declared war on the culture of wellness washing, of this corporate softness, no offense meant, against this generic thing called water that everybody buys and everybody uses all the time. Their depositioning wasn't against any specific other brand, Evian, Fiji, Dasani, didn't matter. They depositioned the identity of the water drinker, the customer who drinks water. They basically said, that version of you is dead, pun intended. And their marketing, one of their taglines was murder your thirst. Wasn't a product claim. It was a tribal rejection of the entire competitive set worldview. So while most brands try to kind of out-feature their competition, Liquid Death actually made drinking their competitors' water feel embarrassing. It was an identity attack. So the depositioning there was all about your identity as a water drinker. Holding a can of Liquid Death said something about you. So yeah, that's one of my favorite examples.
Well, and to me, it's funny. So I was at a concert just this last summer, and Liquid Death was one of the sponsors. And I mean, you're talking legend punk rock bands, NoFX, but like all of these like hardcore punk bands, and we're all walking around literally with like a Liquid Death can, and we're like, "What's up, guys?" Drinking water, at this hardcore show, punk rock show, and it became a thing. There, if you check out their Spotify channel, it's all of their hate mail about like, you guys suck and all this, but they actually like put it to death metal and to all of this like hardcore kind of identity. And to me that in and of itself is just brilliant. You take your hate mail and make lemonade out of lemons, kind of a thing.
Well,
It's
people get
just
very invested in the brands that they're seen using, right? What watch do you have on you? Oh, is that a Rolex? Right.
right.
What car do you drive? Everybody is caught up to some degree in identity politics, right?
Absolutely.
And that impacts your brand decisions a lot. And so when a brand can get into your head and show you that your current identity association, your current cultural engagement is actually embarrassing, if they can convince you that what you're doing right now, oh, you've got that bottle of Dasani water? Are you kidding me? So, but that's only one approach to depositioning. There are a lot of different things that a brand can deposition. Identity is only one of them.
And so, because of this, you have written a book, and I'm going to throw this up in our ticker here. Um, you wrote a book. Tell us about that. I mean, that's I think what a lot of people are here for is, what made you decide that now was the right time to write and publish this? I've heard you speak many times on the subject of positioning, but the fact that you have a book, this is exciting.
How brutally honest can I be?
we're on the internet. I would love for you to be as brutally honest as you can.
The internet. I forgot. Here's a really honest answer. Why did I write the book and publish it now? I've been doing this for 40 years and teaching this privately for 40 years. Rage, anger, but productive rage. I have, with my own eyes, in the boardrooms, watched decades of really, really hard-fought strategic intelligence get replaced by frameworks built by people who read about battle but never fought one.
Yeah.
And every single day, I see the science of positioning and customer acquisition and competitive advantage reduced to a tagline exercise, and depositioning not even mentioned in the conversation or being misinterpreted. Brian, you can't go 1 hour on LinkedIn, for example, without seeing a dozen posts all about positioning is this and positioning is that and brand strategy. And they're all jumping on the bandwagon, or they've been on the bandwagon for years and years and years.
Right.
And the vast majority of what they're teaching, what they're saying, and what they're teaching others is just wrong. And at some point, silence is complicity. So I decided I was no longer willing to be complicit in the dumbing down of what I think is one of the most powerful disciplines in business and marketing. 40 years of working with the people who literally invented this game gave me an obligation. I felt I kept deferring it, right? Keeping it private, using it for only my clients. So the book that I wrote, the saying, he literally wrote the book. I literally wrote the book.
Yes.
On the topic of positioning and depositioning, right? This book is me paying that debt, settling, my obligation to the universe, to karma, about not being complicit in dumbing down our society, whether it's business, personal. Branding applies to people, right? Everyone has a personal brand. And it's not what you're banner looks like. It's not your colors. It's not your logo. Please, please. The concept of brand is so conflated with branding and marketing that it becomes a useless term anymore, right?
Right.
So the reason I wrote the book is to kind of assuage my anger, pay my debt, not be complicit by my silence, and actually teach people what positioning really is and what depositioning really is. And the majority is not what you think it is. It just really, really isn't. I said that over the last 40 years, I learned this from the legends that actually created it.
Yeah.
Back in the 1980s, Al Reese and Jack Trout published a book called Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind. And it was a disruptive book. It changed the world of marketing and advertising. It basically said that the war you need to fight is not out there in a marketplace. It's in the mind of your target customer. And Madison Avenue woke up and they said, what? It's not about advertising on TV more? I've got to get through into the heads of my target? Change the game completely.
Right.
And I was very fortunate to know Jack Trout and spend a lot of time with him face to face. And I realized that while they created something, they coined something, they gave us a concept that changed everything, they didn't cross the finish line. They wrote about positioning, but they ignored or didn't address or didn't get to, maybe not intentionally, the fact that positioning cannot work if depositioning doesn't happen first.
So based on obviously, like, having come from the Madison Avenue world at its peak and understanding this idea of human psychology and all that, do you feel like this is something that's kind of been, obviously it's conflated with a lot of people that are like, oh, just brand. But do you feel like this idea of human psychology and neuromarketing, getting inside the actual, like, what is going to make the person buy, what's going to make them click? Do you feel like this is something that was overlooked or forgotten, or tell me a little bit about that?
You're asking a very, very deep question. We could,
go on this for hours, I'm sure.
Well, we could spend days on this one, but let me try to boil it down in a few sentences, okay?
Sure.
One of the most startling truths in all of marketing is this: you didn't choose your last purchase. Your brain did. And then it sent you a memo explaining why it was your idea. The decision was made subconsciously, automatically. And then you justified it. And two psychologists who essentially proved that rationality is a polite fiction, Kahneman and Tversky, they wrote a book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow.
Yeah, Think Fast, Then Slow, or
Thinking
something like
Fast and Slow.
Yeah.
And they introduced something called System 1 and System 2. These are two systems that we have going on. System 1 is a fast, emotional, automatic mind. It's the knee-jerk reaction. It's the decision made that you don't even know you're making. It happens in milliseconds. And it basically controls almost every single decision we make in life. But once that happens, once System 1 kicks in and you make a decision, then System 2 takes over. It's a slow, rational, analytical mind justifying the decision that you just made after it's already made. Positioning owns system one. Everything else is pure noise. System two generates the ability to feel intelligent and happy and good and satisfied about a decision that your brain already basically made for you. Depositioning is a system one interrupt. Because if you can't interrupt these heuristic subconscious biases and effects and fallacies that are built into you, that guide every decision you make in life, if you can't interrupt those as a brand, then the decision's already made against you.
Like that.
Depositioning is a system one interrupt. It's the strategic disruption of automatic loyalty before system two even knows that the battle was fought. So people think they're rational buyers. They're not. Brands think that their targets are rational buyers. Oh, they're absolutely going to love this feature. They're absolutely going to love the price point. They're absolutely going to love our customer service. They're going to love everything about us, right? No, people are basically heuristic machines who hired a lawyer, system two, after the verdict to justify it.
So this definitely feels a little bit like your cup in the background there that says SEO Jedi. This feels a little bit like a Jedi mind trick where you do have influence and control. Where is that ethical line between depositioning and disparagement? How do you stay on the right side of this? Because this is I don't think people understand how powerful this can be to position or deposition, your brand or your competitors. Like this is a Jedi mind trick, right?
Yes, but it's not manipulative.
Right.
Let me rephrase that. It's not maliciously manipulative, right? Everything we do in life is manipulative to some degree.
To some extent, right.
People in the SEO community talk about black hat, white hat, gray hat, right? The reality is every single thing you do in SEO is black hat. You are manipulating or trying to manipulate Google's algorithm artificially. You're not just doing things and hoping that Google sees you and loves you and gives you some.
You're not writing a blog just for the sake of I want to altruistically write something. You have an intent behind it, right?
So you bring up the ethical issue, which is really, to me, one of the most important aspects here. Because when I talk about depositioning to clients a lot, what I hear knee-jerk is, I can't point to my competitor and call them out. I can't say, Acme cameras are terrible. It's not me. I'll get sued, liability, ethic, etc. Right. So let me bring this back to a different perspective on ethics. The line that I draw is very, very simple. Attack the category, not the competitor. Now, there's an exception here. Unless the competitor is the category. I'll explain that.
All right.
Depositioning is only ethical when it's truthful, when what you say or do to cause this disruption in your target's mind is validatable, when it's aimed at the belief system your target holds. You're not about destroying your rival. You're about destroying a mindset that exists that causes your targets to believe in your competitors. The moment you make a claim that you can't defend in a courtroom or a living room or a boardroom, you've crossed the line from strategy to some level of bullshit and defamation.
Right.
Now, I said before, the exception is when the competitor is the category. Let me explain that. Coke and Pepsi It's the exception that proves the rule, right? These two brands are the category. Sure, there's a lot of ancillary second level players. Coke and Pepsi are the category.
Right.
Full stop. And when two brands are the category, the war between them is the market. Coke is bigger than Pepsi. They have more customers, more drinkers of Coke than there are of Pepsi. So Coke has a defensive marketing challenge. They need to wrap their arms around their consumers and prevent them from leaving, prevent them from being poached away by Pepsi. That's why you've got the Pepsi challenge, right?
Yeah.
Pepsi is the second player in the market. So they have an offensive positioning challenge. They need to take market share away from Coca-Cola. But for everyone else, where it's not one or two giant brands that basically are the category, the most powerful and most effective and most successful depositioning doesn't mention a competitor by name.
Yeah.
It makes the competitor's position feel intellectually embarrassing to still believe in. Let me give you one more example. A couple of years ago, Super Bowl, Bud Light. 4 words disrupted a multi-billion-dollar industry. So Super Bowl commercial comes on, and the Bud Light commercial basically hinges on 4 words: brewed without corn syrup. Let's dissect this. Everybody kind of knows that corn syrup isn't healthy for you. It's artificial sugar. So if my beer is brewed without corn syrup, that's good, right? That's a positive. That is a bit of positioning, brings you to me. Oh, that's a healthier beer. Cool. That wasn't the point. The point was the inference that if we are the beer that's brewed without corn syrup, every other beer in the entire category is brewed with corn syrup. They didn't even have to say anything negative about the category. All they had to do was put in the mind of the beer drinker in Super Bowl. Everybody's at home having, a 6-pack with their buddies. We're tailgating. So what did people do? Oh my God, I'm not drinking Bud Light. I'm drinking corn syrup. Game over. They didn't deposition Coors. They didn't deposition Molson. They didn't deposition whatever other brand of beer is out there, right? They depositioned the entire category. And that's the home run. They got sued because it was a little off target. They were honest about not being brewed with corn syrup, but the implication was that the other beers had corn syrup in it. So they got sued and they lost and they appealed and then they won. The point of this exercise is not whether they won or lost, and they won because what they said was truthful. It's the power of what they said in the mind of the beer drinker, their target audience, that caused people to just hesitate for a moment to say what I thought was good enough, my favorite beer, is no longer acceptable. That's the moment of switch. That's the inflection point. When you can get your target to stop thinking that whatever they're using today is good enough, now that target is open for a new option. So there's a very thin time gap between positioning and depositioning, right?
Right.
The very instant, the nanosecond that the customer says, oh, whoa, I've got to switch, you need to be right there.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting overlap between how you do brand positioning and brand awareness while you are seeding the depositioning to happen, so that when the depositioning takes hold, those customers, those targets that you want already are ready for you.
Question that came in here on the Facebook chat is, it says, Marty, makes me think of Chick-fil-A. Cows in the commercial saying eat more chicken. Does it deposition the hamburger beef fast food? Is that kind of what your idea behind this is? Or is that a slightly different approach?
No, that's a really great question. And it's a very, very good example. So Chick-fil-A, when they have these cows on the billboards and they're painting in, like, bad handwriting, eat more, MOR, chicken spelled wrong, right? First of all, the humor in it gets your attention for a moment, right? And we live in a world, we are bombarded, literally, millions and millions of messages and inputs every day. We don't have time to sit and think each one through. So our brain does it for us, right? That's the heuristics. But what Chick-fil-A did was they didn't go out and try to deposition McDonald's or Burger King. They weren't even depositioning eating beef. Well, they sell meat too. They sell chicken. What they were doing was they were depositioning the identity of the consumer who eats fast food beef products, right? What do you mean eat more chicken? And there's these poor cows that are begging you not to eat me. So, Chick-fil-A, awesome depositioning. But think about what they're depositioning. They didn't say McDonald's. They didn't say Burger King. They didn't say Hardee's. They didn't say whatever other branch or chain of fast food burger joint there is out there. They said the identity of you eating beef, little sus there. So, yes, it is the idea. It's absolutely the idea.
Awesome. And then we had another one that came in here. Just every insight, to build build an epic brand. Like, kudos to Marty. So heck yeah. Let's get back to the idea of your book here, right? So, tell us a little bit more about the book, and then also after 40 years of being in the industry here, like, what do you believe now? A little teaser into the book that is that's completely true about what you used to think and kind of how you're approaching this.
Well, coming from Madison Avenue, where our bread and butter was made producing TV commercials for, multi-$100 billion companies.
Right.
I was taught, and I always believed, that a great creative idea could overcome a weak strategic position. But it can't. And I've learned that over the last couple of decades, more and more. It can't ever. I've watched literally billion-dollar campaigns brilliantly execute the exact wrong strategy. Creativity without positioning is just expensive noise. So after 40 years, the one thing that I can tell you with absolute certainty, no brand, not one, loses market share because their advertising wasn't clever. They don't lose market share because their offer wasn't steep enough. They don't lose market share because they weren't disruptive in their creative. They don't lose market share because they didn't spend enough money. What they did was they lost market share because they handed their competition the high ground without a fight. They let their competitors eat their lunch, literally, by talking about themselves and not trying to understand that there are only hint, little giveaway from the book, there are only 2 tactics that can trigger actual depositioning, unbinding in the target's mind. Only 2. And if you understand what these 2 are, and you can apply them to your business, your brand, your marketing, your conversion rate's going to go through the roof. So kind of, the industry's changed. I grew up, you can even see maybe in the bookshelf behind me, George Lois's The Big Idea.
Yeah.
And I've written extensively on this, right? The big idea, crap. USP, right? Or the unique selling proposition, death to brands. Here's one that I always get kickback on. Niching down.
We hear that a lot, right?
Right? To me, niching down mentality is brand suicide. If you want to specialize, great, and you should. But that's not niching down. Niching down actually eliminates the majority of the market you want. What you want to do is, instead of niching down, you want to niche away. You want to take the category, you want to change the criteria by which that category is evaluated, and you want to bring the entire category market over with you to a slightly new way of doing it. That's not niching down, that's specializing. Here's another one that I like to, the red ocean, blue ocean, right?
Right.
And for those of you who aren't totally familiar with this, red ocean says there's a lot of competitors out there swimming in the same ocean you are, and then you're all sharks and you're feeding off of each other, and it's a bloody bloodbath out there, feeding frenzy, red ocean. So what you do is you create a blue ocean. You create a brand new space. You're the only player in that space, and then you grow the space. That's insanity.
Well, wouldn't that become a red ocean once people realize that that's profitable? I mean, that seems to be kind of the natural progression.
But it isn't profitable. Here's the problem. Real market leaders, category leaders today, in every category, they didn't move away and create a blue ocean. They stayed in the red ocean and depositioned all the other sharks out there, because all the customers were in that ocean with all the competitors. So if you eliminate the competitors, here you are left with all the customers. You move away to a blue ocean, there's no customers there. Now it's going to cost you 100 times the money, the effort, the resources, the time to try to attract customers there. It's insane. Leaders stay in the red ocean and win the battle there.
Love it. Love it.
And how do they win it? Depositioning. So
I was going to say, yeah, I've got your book pulled up right here, and yeah, let me show one thing here. Let's look at this here.
Oh,
tell us about your book. I mean, this is kind of why we're here, and yeah, I'm super excited. I've got the digital version. I'm waiting, and I will be seeing you in Arizona in a few weeks. I need to get my copy signed.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So people who know me, and I'm kind of going to half apologize, they know I talk a lot. I like to talk. I like to teach. My mom was a teacher. I grew up in the teaching mentality. So I do tend to ramble and go on and on and on and on. You know, I think I have something valuable to say. Anyway, I wrote a book called Advanced Brand Positioning and the Depositioning Matrix. Decades ago, I created the positioning matrix. And the positioning matrix was the world's first mathematical formula for creating a positioning strategy, because it's great to understand what positioning does, but how do you actually do it? What are the components that go into a winning positioning platform? Where do you put your emphasis? And very quickly, if you're about to embark on a positioning customer acquisition program, what kind of environment are you playing in? Are you actually introducing a new product? And when I say introducing, I'm not talking about the 2026, Honda Civic. I'm talking about the automobile. The very first time it's ever been introduced, never existed before. That's introductory. The next step is offensive environment. If you're trying to take market share away from whoever has it today, you're on the offense. That's an offensive positioning strategy. Like Pepsi, they're
Right.
in the offense all the time. Then there's the defensive positioning environment. Coca-Cola, they are always on the defense. They're always trying to prevent their customers from being poached away. And then there's the remedial environment. That's when something goes south real fast. Your brand could be overnight. Boeing 737 MAX, crash, deaths, another crash, deaths, autopilot system fail. For over a year and a half after all the 737 MAXs crashed, not one airline fleet in any country around the world bought a Boeing 737 MAX. That's a crisis.
Yeah, and they used to be kings of the industry. It's
Right?
just, yeah.
So you've got these four marketing environments. And depending on which marketing environment your brand is playing in, the components that go into your positioning message vary. The components are the same, but the relative weighting of them, the emphasis of each one of those components changes. So I wrote this mathematical formula, and it's in the book, detailed, gory details. How do you fill it in? How do you do it? And at the end of it, you have a positioning platform that really works. But as we said before, Brian, positioning only works if the depositioning has taken effect.
Yeah.
So I also created the depositioning matrix. And the depositioning matrix is also a mathematical formula. And what it says is that there are four critical elements that you need to understand to craft a depositioning strategy message. But why are you doing this? You're doing this because we talked before about unbinding your target customer from whoever's got them today, right?
Yep.
But there are different levels of binding. If you have a toothpaste that you love, and when you run out of it, you buy more, right?
Right.
But what happens if they're out of your favorite brand right now of toothpaste? You're not going to go without toothpaste. You're going to buy some other brand. It's not life and death. It's not like brand loyalty where you're wearing a T-shirt that says Crest, right? So that state is called loosely bound. Those targets are loosely bound. It's relatively easy to take them away. But it's also not a loyalty market. They're easy switchers. So easy come, easy go. Just like you can take them, somebody else can take them from you. So that's the loosely bound segment. Then there's the strongly bound segment. This is where the fight takes place. Right. Strongly bound is when a customer has loyalty to a brand. You're not going to make me switch.
Apple Android or Apple
right?
PC.
Apple Android, perfect, right? if you're an Apple person and you've had an iPhone for the last 10 years, try to sell you an Android and see what happens.
It's going to fall on deaf ears. I mean, that's.
And people are going to attack you. Oh, Android, oof, right? It's an identity thing. It's a cult. That's where cult comes from, right? It's you belong. You are part of that tribe. And all the things that go along with that tribe associate to you. For years, Microsoft, right, spent years mocking the Mac user as an elitist. And it backfired catastrophically.
Yeah.
Because they attacked an aspiration that people wanted. People wanted to be that Mac guy. The lesson here is actually really brutal, and it's non-negotiable. Before you deposition a competitor, you have to understand whether their position is a liability in disguise or a genuine bond with their consumer. If you attack the bond, you don't weaken the competitor. You strengthen them. Depositioning is not about solving pain points. It's not about how relevant you are to your target. Again, it has a singular objective. Break that bond. It keeps your targets bound to their incumbents. Everything else belongs to positioning. That one thing belongs to depositioning. So going back to the book has the entire positioning matrix, explaining all the components, all the marketing environments, and it has the complete depositioning matrix, which is all the elements that go into, well, how do I deposition this problem? And it explains the 4 levels of binding that your targets could be bound with. And it shows you exactly how to attack each one and why it works and what the message needs to be. So it's actually 350 pages. It's a thick book. It weighs, I've had it printed on really premium paper, like a maniac. The book weighs about, I don't know, close to 2 pounds. Anyway, that's why I wrote the book. That's what's in the book. A paid political announcement. You can read all about the book at my website, masterpositioning.com. So yes, come and buy my book.
Yeah, and I can second that. Like I said, I'm waiting on my physical copy. I have checked out the digital version, and you were kind enough to let me actually read through it before it was actually even published, which I like. The insights that you can take out of this book, I can't stress it enough. Like, and I've said this before. I'll reiterate this. When Marty, when you've presented on stuff like this is one of those things that if people aren't aware of this, they need to just shut up, sit down, and listen. This is absolutely a skill that I think that in this whole idea of like everyone vibe coding, everyone like AI speeding things up, all of this is one of those techniques, and understanding the idea between positioning and depositioning, hands down, is one of those things that will set a business either up for failure or success, depending on which side of the fence you're on, and how well that they understand this. Again, we hear offers all the time. We hear it's all of this, but that really is kind of putting the cart before the horse.
You bring up something interesting. You, in passing there, you said the secret word, and I would love to just spend a moment on this.
Absolutely.
You said AI, vibe coding. Here's a real irony. Gen AI makes positioning more powerful, not less. When every company, every brand, every service can create unlimited content at a brilliant level, and every company can say everything. The companies that stand for something really specific, they become impossible to ignore.
Yeah.
So the battlefield with Gen AI actually got more crowded. And because it's more crowded, it's more competitive, which means that displacing your competitors from their position in the consumer's mind, it isn't optional anymore. It's existential to the survival of every single brand, every single service, every single business, every single consultancy and agency in every category imaginable. It is life and death now for brands to use positioning and depositioning the right way. AI didn't make positioning irrelevant. It actually made it the last competitive weapon available.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. That's awesome. Awesome. So for anyone that is interested in getting the book, again, masterpositioning.com, and then you've got a link to that. And for $47, I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, personally, I would recommend get the $47 and then you have an upsell for that for another $20 to get the digital version. Like
No, $7.
$7. There we go. So
let me jump in. Let me jump in
Yeah.
here, Brian, because there's something maybe I didn't make this prominent enough on the website. This is the first edition of the book. I've only produced 500 copies of this book as a first edition. And the book is $47, includes shipping anywhere in the US. And anybody that buys this book during the first edition gets a free seat in a 90-minute live, very intensive mastermind that I'm holding to teach you the fast track into how you can use and understand and deploy this. Go to the homepage for a moment, Brian. Click on the logo.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's right there at the top. See where it says see full details? Click that.
Yep.
This is a masterclass. It will cost $1,250 to join this masterclass once the first edition of the book is gone. But if anybody buys the first edition for the $47, you get a free seat in this mastermind. This will save you an inordinate amount of time getting up to speed for your specific business. This is intensive. It's live. It will not be recorded. It will not be replayed. It is a live event. You're either there or you're not. And it's free for anybody who buys the book now while the first edition is here. So I think that might be an incentive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if it's not an incentive for you, I guess Advantage isn't for everyone. Maybe you like slogging and wasting money, but personally, I think that this is, the price of the master classes, I mean, and you get a book and you get the cheat codes, like it's a no-brainer.
For those of you who know me on this call, you know that I've been offering courses and teaching courses for the last 10 years. And my courses are pretty intensive and they're very high ticket, right? This masterclass, even at $1,250, is inexpensive for what you're going to get. And it's free if you buy the book. Well,
for the cost of the book. I mean, and again,
for the cost of the book, you also get this masterclass.
It's awesome.
So
absolutely. So
anyway, it's all there on masterpositioning.com for anybody who wants to see it, wants to read it. I hope you do. I'm here.
Outstanding. So yeah, links down here, down below at the bottom. Pick it up. Again, this is one of those things that I'm personally really looking forward to hanging out with you in a few weeks in Arizona at spring training, talking more about this, and I'm sure I'm going to have a plethora of questions as I've gone through the book yet again, and be like, "Hey, Marty, well, what about that one thing?" I'm just really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the master class. This is going to be like
SEO
absolutely
spring
amazing.
training is going to be insane, off the hook.
Yes.
I've been presenting as the keynote speaker at SEO spring training since the very first one in 2019, right? And Terry and Elizabeth Samuels and Clint Butler put on the best conference in the industry. And I'm also opening this conference with a completely different presentation that is going to, I think, upset the world a little bit. But that's what I like to do, right?
Yeah.
I'm a troublemaker.
Right. Deposition the industry.
Always do, Brian.
Outstanding. Awesome. Well, it was a real pleasure to chat with you today. Yeah, anyone, again, take a look at that link down below, pick up the book. Highly, highly worth your while. And I mean, just amazing stuff. Always a
Thank you
pleasure,
so
Marty.
much, Brian.
Thank you very much for joining me on the call today, and hope you guys have a very productive and fantastic week. All right.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Bye.